You are listening to the Information Security Notes and Podcast, episode 19, which was released on August 7th, 2020. My name is Josh Amishav. This week we have Tommy Devoss, aka Dawgyg, on the show. Tommy is one of 8 hackers who've made over $1 million on HackerOne, as well as a reformed black hat. I'm sure many of you are somewhat familiar with the story. If not, check out his interview on the Darknet Diaries podcast. Today, I wanted to focus on the technical side of how he's been so successful in bug bounties. Direct support for this podcast comes from BreachSense, the data breach monitoring platform. What's the easiest way hackers break into your network? By using valid usernames and passwords. Hackers collect millions of leaked credentials from almost daily data breaches. Without visibility into which of your employees or users' credentials have been leaked, it's tough to protect against this. Integrate BreachSense's powerful yet easy-to-use API into your existing security solutions to prevent account takeover and stop online fraud. Tommy Devoss, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks. I'm very excited to have you on. We usually start with how you got into hacking, and you have an amazing story. So how did you get into hacking?
For the most part, it all started in about the mid-90s. I was on IRC, specifically the FNet IRC network. And my first real introduction to hacking was joining the wrong chat room. I was trying to join something, and I misspelled it or something along those lines, and I joined the wrong room. And the room that I joined ended up being run by a hacker that was based in San Jose, California. And back then, we used to use something called egg drop bots to stay in IRC channels for us to keep our operator status and everything, so people couldn't steal our rooms. And this particular hacker had an egg drop bot running on one computer at almost every university in the United States. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So I started joining every day, trying to get somebody in there to reply to me, because most of the time I got absolutely no replies because, well, I guess Lewis was sleeping or whatever when I would be in there, and being several hours difference for time zones. And they banned me from the chat room a lot. And, well, pretty much just persistence ended up making them agree to, at least start showing me some stuff. And once they started showing me some stuff, I just picked it up really quick, really well, and ended up hacking with them for several years. That was all as part of a IRC channel takeover group called TDK, Those Damn Kids. During that time, I also formed and joined other existing groups for what's called defacements, meaning we would break into websites or web servers just to deface their website. We weren't stealing credit card information or anything like that. It was basically just for the fun of it and to, show people that we were smarter than they were when it came to security. I did that up until about 2002. I was raided in 2000 for a bomb threat to my high school and for hacking. That was as a juvenile, so my parents paid a lawyer a lot of money to basically get me out of that trouble almost completely free. It was pretty much a slap on the wrist. I was banned from computers at that time, though. I continued to be on the computers and hack, even against my probation. In 2002, June, I want to say it was June 12th, 2002, so just over 18 years ago now, I was raided by the FBI, DCIS, which is the Defense Criminal Investigative Service, the Secret Service, my local police, and everything for my part as with the hacking group World of Health. I ended up going to prison, U.S. federal prison, in 2004 for the crimes that they raided me for. Spent 2 years in prison that time. Came home from prison for about a year before I was sent back to prison for having a computer in my house. I came home from prison again in 2008 and was home for about 18 months before I was raided by the FBI again. And at that time, the FBI had watched me for about 6 months. They rented the house across the street from me, videoed every person coming and going from my house, took my trash every week when I would put it on the curb for the trash service to pick it up. A girl that I was dating or online dating got mad at me at one point and called the FBI and told them that I was illegally hacking again and that I was using an Xbox to hide the traffic so they wouldn't be able to see it. So as a result of her call, they monitored me for 6 months verified that I was on a computer, but they couldn't get anything against me as far as me hacking. They had wiretaps and everything monitoring my network data, and they just were never able to find me actually hacking something. So they raided me to violate my probation and send me back to prison for 14 months, thinking that once they raided me and they took my computers, having me locked up for 14 months would allow them to build a case against me. And well, that wasn't the case because I truly wasn't hacking anymore at the time. I was just playing games on Xbox and playing a browser-based video game called Ebony. So I ended up doing another 14 months in prison for having a computer in my house and making a female upset. Then I came home. I was released from prison the last time, November 3rd of 2010. So it's been almost 10 years. And they lifted my probation. When I got released that time, I was no longer on probation, and I was no longer banned from computers and cell phones and all of that. So I was actually 100% free at that time. And well, yeah, that's how I got into actual hacking and stuff like that.
So then, after you were away from computers for so long, how did you catch up? Like, what were the best resources for you to stay current?
PacketStormSecurity.com always has been and always will be one of my favorite websites to stay up to date on computer stuff, just because they carry the code and advisories and stuff for all kinds of vulnerabilities, anything that's made public. They also carry a bunch of, like, anybody can write an exploit or scanner or anything like that and submit it to have it up there so you can get stuff from a wide range of different people. They also provide news extremely consistently from around the world about different security-related things, different hacks, different advisories, and things like that. So it's just always been one of my go-to places to get things as far as exploits and scanners, as well as stay up to date on news. And I also use Twitter a lot for it as well.
Yeah, I was expecting the Twitter answer. I did not think of the Packet Storm answer. That's interesting. How did you get started with bug bounties then?
So I joined Bugcrowd and HackerOne back in 2014 because a friend of mine that my first computer job was as a system admin and a developer, and the job that I got hired into, I was replacing a friend of mine when he moved to a different company. And he had mentioned, because he knew how much I liked to hack and everything, the bug bounty stuff in 2014, and I signed up, but I didn't trust it. To me, it seemed like it was too good to be true. And most of the time, as the saying goes, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. If I get caught illegally hacking again, it's life in prison. So I wasn't willing to take that risk that I was really actually all out to do this thing called bug bounties. Then in the beginning of 2016, like February, I was on Twitter. I was an active Anon, not with the hacking and stuff, but as far as the protesting and everything like that. So I followed a lot of hackers and stuff on Twitter. And I started having things come off my Twitter feed about people writing blog posts about bugs they had found for bug bounty programs and getting paid for them. So once I started reading a bunch of those, I was like, all right, maybe this is actually something that I can trust. So I went back to HackerOne and tried to sign up for an account, and it told me my email was already in use, and I had forgotten I had created the account. So I just forgot my account, logged in, and went to their directory of companies. And one of the first names that I saw on there was Yahoo. I've been hacking Yahoo since like 97, 98. So I know them extremely well, and they've always been one of my favorite companies to actually hack, just because I've used so many of their services. And they were on the HackerOne platform. So I started looking for bugs on Yahoo. My first bug that I reported to them was an information disclosure that I found by Googling. I was Googling stuff and found that a lot of Yahoo admins at the time would use GitHub JIT to share information with each other when they were having problems on the Yahoo servers, like stack traces, error logs, and things like that. And they were forgetting to either make them private or delete them after they had been used. And I found a bunch of them that had things like internal network mappings for IP ranges and stuff broken down by, they were database application servers and things like that. and stack traces that actually contained clear text passwords and stuff for some of their internal apps, none of which I could actually access because it was all internal only things, but still not something that they would want disclosed, because if an attacker managed to get internal access somehow, then, well, they had information to move even further. So I ended up reporting it to Yahoo, and they actually got it fixed, or not fixed, but the best that they could with like pretty quick, like within a month or so. They had the admins go and delete the things and make them private and stuff like that. And they paid me a $300 bounty. And I remember thinking that getting paid $300 for something that I found with a Google search was just incredible. So I started to spend a bit more time, pretty much the entire time that I was at work, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 for my normal job. Because I was the system admin, I had all of my servers running really good, so I didn't have a lot of things to do. So I just started using that time to bug bounty hunt. And in my first year, I managed to make like $30,000 or $40,000 in addition to my salary for the company. So it was like, that's not too bad. And then in 2017, I devoted a lot more time to it and made over six figures for the first time in my life legally. So once I saw that I could make a lot more doing bug bounties than I could at any job, I quit my jobs and I just started doing them full time towards the end of 2017. And that's all I've been doing since.
Wow. In the bug bounty programs, how do you stay motivated, especially in the beginning when you keep on getting when people get duplicates? How do you stay motivated, and how do you avoid the duplicates?
When it comes to duplicates, one thing I try to explain to new hunters is a duplicate is a valid bug. So you are at least on the right track. The trick is you just got to find them faster next time. But never get discouraged from a duplicate, because at least it's not a not applicable bug or an informative or something like that. So you are finding real bugs. So that's definitely something to keep your motivation and your spirits up. As for not getting duplicate bugs, it's the best thing that I can say is to look for more serious bugs. The more serious a bug is, the faster the company's going to fix it. And the faster they fix a bug, the less likely you are to have a duplicate. Like as it stands right now, when it comes to duplicates, aside from live hacking events and on Synac, I very seldom get duped anymore, because I try to mostly look for just high and critical bugs. Not only do you get paid more for them, you get paid faster because they get fixed faster, and, well, there's less likely that there's going to be duplicates unless you just happen to find it within a couple of days of somebody else.
Okay, do you look for like one specific type of bug across multiple targets, or do you have like a list of, I don't know, 5-10 different high risk bugs that you look for?
It really all depends on. It varies so much. Like this past weekend, I spent about 10 to 12 hours looking for Cisco. Just had a few high and critical rated bugs that were disclosed in the last couple of weeks, and proof of concepts came out for them about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So I actually took the proof of concepts, and me and two friends of mine, the Rev and Shambo, we spent a couple of hours on Saturday writing scanners to scan for the specific endpoints that this bug needed for it to be, like, for us to know that a host was vulnerable. And then I went through and scanned every single IP address that was in scope for Synac bug bounty programs, and ended up getting about 60 submissions for Saturday night into Sunday morning. But wow. That's not something you do commonly. Like that's only going to happen when a well-known piece of software comes out and has like a CVE that gets public or something like that, or if I happen to find a CVE-worthy bug on a target that I know is not custom code. A lot of what I do deal with when it comes to bug bounties is custom code. I don't like attacking WordPress instances, Drupal, and things like that. I prefer to attack like completely homegrown or in-house built applications, just because as a bug hunter, it's more likely for me to find bugs in them, just because it's harder for software like that to be written secure, and it very seldom is the first couple of times going around.
Okay, now one of the things you mentioned is you like to hack with some friends, and I think you put out on Twitter a couple days ago that you want to organize a new hacking team. I think you have a Discord channel. In terms of if you're as a bug bounty hunter, you would, especially I would think hunters that are just starting out, you would probably want to be by yourself because then you get the entire bounty. What's the thought process in hacking as a team?
I don't know everything, and no matter who you are, hackers all have a different mindset. Not just from like normal people, but from other hackers as well. And I want to learn from others as much as I want to help others and let them learn from me as well. And a lot of times ways you do that is to just hack with each other. I make enough doing this that it's not all, most of the time when I'm doing my hacking, it's all about the money, because that's why I got into bug bounties, is to make money. But I'm willing to sacrifice portions of my bounties at times if it means that I get to work with people that I'm going to learn stuff from. One of the reasons that I love hacking so much is I'm ADHD, and when I get into something, I beat it, like video games and stuff like that. And once I get to be the top of whatever it is, whether it's a game or something like that, I lose interest. But when it comes to hacking, I can never finish. I can never learn all there is to know about hacking. I can never finish it. So it's something that's been able to keep my interest without a problem for 25 years now.
Cool. Okay, now one of the things you mentioned now about learning from other people, I want to talk a bit about your recon process. So when you have a new target, how do you approach it, and how do you make sure that you're not finding the same things that everyone else is finding?
Most of the way that I make sure I'm not finding the things other people are finding is that I target things that other people don't really look at. I've had a lot of success on the Verizon Media bug bounty program by finding old assets. Because I've been hacking for so long, I remember a lot of the old AOL, not AOL, a lot of the old companies and tech companies that were around in the 90s and early 2000s that have since been bought by all kinds of other companies. And I've gotten a lot of my bugs from being able to remember some of these old companies, finding out who they were bought by, and then targeting them and reporting it to their new parent company's bug bounty program and stuff like Verizon Media. When it comes to AOL and things like that, there's AOL, CompuServe, and all kinds of old companies that, unless you've been around forever, you're not really going to know those names to even start to begin to target. A lot of my recon is just doing subdomain discovery. I use Sublister, Aquatone, and Alt DNS mostly when it comes to subdomain discovery. And then once I do that, it's pretty much everything after that point is manual, because I'll take a screenshot of every web server after port scanning and stuff like that. But then I just go after them manually. I go and use the web application and use it as much as I can to like populate my proxy results in burp. And then I go through looking for requests that have parameters or that are doing any type of state change and stuff like that, and then just start trying to exploit them or get them to do things that they weren't supposed to do.
Okay, if we can back up to when you mentioned Sublister. So if you run Sublister, by default, you've got a certain list of subdomains that it's going to be looking for. But obviously, there's a good portion of other hunters that are running the same tools. So you need to then create a custom list. And in the past, we've talked about using things like seclist and the server type. So, for example, if you're testing an Apache server, you'd grab a list of technologies that are applicable to what you're searching for, or things like using Cool to parse out HTML words that may be relevant for the company. Do you have any tips on how to create custom lists for subdomain enumeration?
Well, coming back to what you mentioned about Sublister, Yes, everybody's using the same tool that's pulling back the same results and stuff. But when it comes to sublister, most people that are going to do subdomain discovery are going to they're going to use the -D flag per domain, and they're just going to put yahoo.com. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, of course, I'm going to do the just -D yahoo.com, but I'm also going to look at the patterns for the way their subdomains are set up for both their servers and web applications and things like that. And I'm going to look for subdomains on specific subdomain routes. Like there's on Yahoo, there's anyone.yahoo.com. You'll get a bunch of servers that have that in their name if you just do -dyahoo.com, but you'll get a lot more if you use anyone.yahoo.com for your base domain that you're going to start looking for. And I'll go through in all of the different, I call them root subdomains, but for every root subdomain type that I know of for Yahoo, I will do each one of those. And I generally do that as much as once or twice every week, even if I'm not hacking that week, just because you never know when a server or a host name is going to pop up and when it's going to disappear again or get changed or something like that. So I try to keep my Recon data as up to date as possible, even when I'm not actually actively hacking. But when it comes to making custom word lists, like you said, I'll do a lot of times, I'll use SSL and connect to a server IP address over HTTPS, just so that it shows me the little certificate warning thing. And I will get words and stuff like that from inside of other domains that are using that same SSL certificate to help me find other domains as well.
And you can do that at scale if you're like testing something like Yahoo and they're going to have thousands of web servers. How would you do that?
Write a scanner that just connects to them with OpenSSL, scrapes the for all of the domains that SSL certificate applies to, save it into a list that then gets deduped and everything.
Okay, and what do you let's say when you're scanning Yahoo for subdomains, what are you using to if you need to like compare to find see differences? So I know AMAS has this built in. Do you have a similar tool that you're using just so you can easily do a diff on the results to see what's new?
I'll just run command line scripts that'll check and see, like if I have my list from last week and my list from this week, I'll check to see if it's the same size, not the same size necessarily exactly, but see how many different lines there are between the two of them and just print out any unique line that's not in the first list from like last week, just to see. And a lot of times I don't end up looking at them. When it comes to Yahoo now, I've spent so much time hacking them that a lot of times just from looking at the host name, I can know whether it's going to be something that that I should spend some time looking at or not. Like there's some services like YQL. I target YQL, which is the Yahoo query language. I target those servers a lot. So if I look at a set of new host names that I just found this week that I hadn't seen before, one of the first things I'll look for is to see if any of them are going to be YQL servers or any of their page builder services for some of their other stuff, just because I know of known bugs, they're known to me, that are common on those types of servers. So it gives me a starting point on what to be trying on them. But then there's also some servers that just by looking at it, I know that I've never once found anything on that type of server, so I just ignore it.
Okay, now when you're doing the subdomain enumeration, in order to speed up the test, they'll query multiple SSL servers or DNS servers, excuse me, and then sometimes you'll hit DNS servers that poison the results. Do you have any methods or techniques that you use in order to ensure the DNS servers that you're querying are giving you valid results?
Well, I've got a bunch of, when you use Aquatone to do sub discovery, it prints out the name servers to whatever domain you passed it to, what those name servers are. So I've made a pretty good list of Yahoo related name servers that I generally use whenever I'm targeting Yahoo, and I also just use the Google 8.8.8.8, 8.8.4.4, and very seldom do I use, I think it's Cloudflare, whoever, the one that's 1.1.1.1. Generally, I try and just make sure that the name servers that I'm using to help me find them are name servers that belong to that company.
Okay, and you haven't been slowed down or blocked by brute forcing too many DNS names for against a specific server?
Not generally, just because I'm not brute forcing. Like there's some other hackers, like my friend Nafi. He brute forces a lot when it comes to subdomains and content discovery and stuff. And I just personally don't hit it as hard as other people do, I guess. So I haven't really had much of a problem with being blocked. I do everything from my own home IP address. I know a lot of hackers don't like to because they get mad when they get banned from like the different WAPs, that if you get banned on one site, you're banned across any. But I don't use automated tools, so I don't have that problem. And that's just one of the advantages to not automating a lot of stuff, is that I can do everything locally and not deal with bans and stuff like that as often.
Okay, in the past you mentioned you like to test for server-side request forgeries. Why ssrf? HTTP request smuggling seems to be the hotness now. What is special about ssrf, and how do you, if you're not familiar with the target's internal IP structure, do you just brute force to figure out what the internal IP is in order to create the proof of concept, or is there some other technique you use?
The why is because it's extremely hard to write software that is designed to fetch content from somewhere for you, whether it's fetching an image or something like that. It's really hard to do that in a secure way in the beginning. And even after I found bugs, ssrf bugs on targets, and I've reported them and they've gotten fixed, I've gotten really good at bypassing the fixes, just because a lot of developers don't seem to think about all of the different ways that you can bypass. A lot of developers will sit there and, when they set up their blacklist, post that they don't want you to hit, they'll put things like localhost and then 127.0.0.1 and things like that. But they don't think about things like DNS rebinding, where I give it a host name that is, well, pointed to an internal IP or something like that. They just do like a string compare basically to whatever I'm using and compare it to the list in there. And then after I've beaten their patch one time, that's when they'll start actually comparing IP addresses and stuff. But even when it comes to that, you can encode an IP address in so many different ways that it generally takes a while before somebody's able to block everything that they want to block in a meaningful way.
Okay, and in order to find the initial place that you're going to attack, you mentioned that you don't like to use automated tools. It would seem like using something like Burp to find the initial potential issue is what most people are doing. Is that what you do as well, or is there another way to do that at scale?
I never use Burp Active Scan. When I first started out, I used Burp Active Scan a lot, and that's when I would get the duplicates, because Burp is finding the same bugs for me that it's finding for everyone else. So now it comes to, basically, I just will use the website as much as I possibly can and touch as much functionality as I possibly can, and then I'll search through the various requests that are going to be in my proxy logs and stuff for Burp, for keywords like looking for a URL parameter or an IMG for image parameter and things like that I'll then try to attack. And I'll also look for, or I'll also try things like changing host headers and stuff like that. But I still even do that manually, because I won't try that naturally every single endpoint possible and stuff. And I'm sure I've missed some bugs and stuff like that because of not using automation and everything like that. But I also know that because I don't use automation, I find a lot of things that other people could not have found that rely on automation.
Wow. Okay, that's a very contrarian view, and apparently it's working out very well for you.
Oh, I have no complaints about it.
Out of curiosity, how many hours a week would you say you spend on bug bounties?
Lately, because of COVID-19, I've been trying to push myself for the last couple of months to make myself work 4 hours a week, Monday through Thursday, and I try to do at least 3 to 8 hours a day. Before COVID, like last year, for all of 2019, I averaged about 10 hours a month. But I'm trying to, I made $903,000 last year working 10 hours a month. So I'm trying to see if I actually put forth my effort and actually look at this as a 9-to-5 job. I'm kind of curious to see how much I could end up making.
Wow, that is very inspirational.
You can definitely when it comes to bug bounties, but it's it certainly has its ups and downs. When you get duplicates and things like that, it can definitely be upsetting and just a deterrent, I guess. But it's worth it in the long run if you keep on trying, I think.
And I think a lot of our listeners are pen testers. Do you have any advice for somebody coming from a pen testing background who wants to go into bug bounties? There are obviously differences, especially in terms of the exploit that needs to be created. Do you have any advice for somebody who wants to make that switch?
The best advice I would say is to always pay attention to the scope. One of the biggest things I see about new hunters, period, is a lot of them don't take the scope as serious as they need to. And what everybody needs to remember, period, whether you're a pen tester or what, when you break a scope of a company, you're technically breaking the law. So you got to be really, really careful when it comes to things like that. And when it comes to pen testers, a lot of times you're asked to go a bit farther in the exploitation process as far as like, okay, break into this outer line system and then try and pivot to something internally. Don't do that when it comes to bug bounties. Almost every program has rules against pivoting, and it will result in you getting banned more often than not if you try to pivot and everything like that. When it comes to bug bounties, a lot of times what you want to do is get just enough information that you can prove the vulnerability exists without actually exploiting it to its full potential unless you're explicitly asked to by the program.
Okay, that's great advice. Thank you. So just to wrap things up here, if people want to learn more about you or follow you, where's the best place to find you?
Right now, it's on Slack. I created a Slack about a week ago right now, and the only purpose of the Slack is I get hundreds of DMs a day across different social media platforms, and I get really tired of having to tell people the same thing all the time to ask me. I'll answer any question you have for me, but I want them asked publicly because you're not the only person that's going to have that question, and I prefer to answer them in a way that more people than just you are going to see the answer. So I created a Slack last week just with the goal of being able to answer questions for people so that multiple people are able to see it, as well as do some collaborating with. Because as I said before, I will learn things from brand new bug hunters and stuff like that. So I don't have any restrictions on how long you have to be hacking and stuff like that in order to hack with me. I do have restrictions for the hacking group that I want to make. I want to make a hacking group just like they were in the 90s. And for that, I do have restrictions and stuff. Like I'm not going to just let anybody join that. I do want true old school hackers on that just because I feel like a lot of us think different than new age hackers and we have a lot different experience. But as far as actually working with people for other bugs and stuff, I'll work with just about anybody of any level of skill. but I will not hack with other people on Yahoo. When it comes to Yahoo, there's not really anybody that I could hack with that would bring enough to the table for me to really want to hack with them there and end up having to share some of what are my kind of like secrets when it comes to it. I will do it on occasion, but it's very seldom that I'm going to hack on anything Yahoo related or Verizon Media period related with other people.
Well, that's it for today. Tommy, thank you very much for hanging out with us today. And I'm going to leave links in the show notes for all the tools mentioned. And if you have any feedback or questions, then please contact me at podcast@breachsense.io. And if you got value from this episode, then please share it with a friend. See y'all next week.